We've all been in the wrong place at the wrong time, but in some cases that could be a matter of life and death. We're going to talk to my guest tonight and find out what it's like to come this close to a life and death experience. Okay, first let me introduce my guests. On my right, we have Dr. Marty Burke, who was, I believe, on the Amtrak train that derailed. What was the date of that?
That was May 9th, 2015.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to all of that in a minute, but first we want to introduce the infamous Andrew J Rodney, right?
Yeah, Andrew Joseph Rodney.
Who was an actor who was involved in a near-fatal car accident that left you in a coma for how long?
3.5 days.
3.5 days. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, age before beauty, Andrew, so we're going to talk to Marty first.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I didn't get that, too.
You're pretty too, Marty.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So, what was going on that day? Was this a normal routine for you?
It was the end of the academic year. I'm a professor at the City University of New York. At that time, I had a residence in Philadelphia and one in New York. I had been down in Philadelphia on academic business, and I was simply planning on taking an afternoon train up to New York, preparing to meet with students on the Wednesday, and then wrapping the term up on the Thursday. That didn't happen. I got delayed with silly paperwork, and rather than taking a mid-afternoon train, I booked a ticket for the 9:10 train going out of 30th Street Station.
So you were basically on your way back to
New York City.
New York for work.
Yep, I had commuted back and forth from New York to Philadelphia for years, and this was just a later version of my standard commute.
So this was a fairly normal thing for you.
Absolutely.
What you were doing.
Yep.
Can you remember the last thing that happened before all hell broke loose?
Sure. Let's see. It was a 9:10 train. It came on time, which is sometimes surprising. I boarded the train. I sat in the quiet car. In this case, is the second carriage. I like sitting in the quiet car. Get a little work done. I went to take what would have been my preferred seat, but someone had already taken that, so I took 2 seats back. Stretched out, put down my briefcase, got out my phone. The train took off. The conductor came by, picked up the ticket, and about 12 minutes into the train ride, we're on the industrial edge of Philadelphia. The train started speeding up very rapidly. And then it started bucking. And then I heard a massive boom. And I felt the train tilting over very rapidly. I knew something was wrong. I put my hand out to protect my face because the train was tilting off to the right. And then everything went black.
From what I read, the conductor was, they considered not paying attention. He was going at a speed around a turn that you would only do on a straightaway, right? Is that your understanding?
Right. The engineer who also blacked out and who still claims not to remember what occurred, the engineer, according to the National Transportation Safety Board, sped the train up around a curve that was signaled for only 50 miles an hour.
You're going like 100 or something?
The train sped up to about 120 miles before it derailed.
Wow. So the last thing you actually remember is what? Switching your seat.
Putting my hand out.
Putting your hand up.
And then being ejected out of my seat.
Okay. Now, Andrew, your situation was a little different. Were you a passenger or the driver of this car?
I was the driver.
So you were driving a car. This is how long ago?
It was October 26, 1996.
Oh, so we're talking, so it's your 20th anniversary this year.
It was just 20 years. And no, it was 17. Thankfully, I was picked to go to states with cross-country running. My lungs are great, good shape and everything. I was a lifeguard at the town pool and stuff, just had a new girlfriend. I was a junior in high school. She was in the car singing shotgun, a girlfriend on her lap, and 3 girls in the back. They were all okay. You know, one girl got 3 stitches. You know, her mafioso dad put his hand around my neck the next year. And my girlfriend was healthy. You know, she didn't get hurt.
So the person in this so-called death seat didn't get hurt?
I kind of messed this up. The car, I don't know if we can do it.
Okay, well, you were driving. Somebody sitting next to you?
Yeah, no, I can sit. I just
And the
went off
person
on a
sitting next to
tangent.
you didn't get hurt badly?
No, I was driving. My girlfriend sitting shotgun. Three of her girlfriends.
And she didn't get
in the
hurt
back.
badly, I'm saying?
No.
Okay, that's...
But no, I'm not
And
even
yet you did.
with her. But yeah.
And what's the last thing you remember before this happened?
I don't. I've read the reports so much. I mean, I could say it. It was 11:07, I believe, at night. 0.0, not high, not doing anything crazy. I had my girlfriend sitting shotgun, a girl on her lap, and 3 girls in the back. We were going 40 to 35, 0.0, went over an intersection. It was like a berm. It's in Ridgewood, west side of Ridgewood, New Jersey, Monroe and Glen. There's been 2 accidents there since, or maybe more than I know, but I know the neighborhood doesn't want to put a bump sign in because it'll look too rural. I don't know.
So you think that part of the responsibility for this accident, which is something we want to talk about, is this bump in the road with no sign?
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I don't know if the sign's there or anything like that. The point being, though, went over the intersection, came down on wet leaves, car spun left, I counter-turned, and the car did a 180 into the tree on the right side of the road. And I broke my mandible, my collarbone, my shoulder blade. I shattered the humerus bone, which I have 2 6-inch plates here.
Nothing funny about that, huh?
Hey, the crazy thing, well, 2 6-inch plates here. I had a 4-inch plate here, but I went snowboarding the next year with a wrist guard, but the wrist guard ended a centimeter before the plate, so the plate was still the pivotal point. You know, a little off key, but just went down the hill, pulled my board around, took a little fall, bunny hill, just getting used to it, pulled my board around, and I was like, I effing broke it. You know, said it out loud, snowboard down the hill. At the time, you know, hanging out with friends, went to the ski lift, saw the Red Cross sign. They're like, common sense took over. I went and got looked at. The plate had snapped through, you know, and they took the jacket off. Then back to the car wreck. Every rib on my left, popped my left lung, broke 3 ribs on my right, compressed the last 5 quadrants of my backbone, broke my pelvis, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and 1 on the left side, ripped every ligament 10 in my left leg, and broke my left ankle. You know, it was October 26, 96. I came out 2 days before Christmas, you know, and I specified how everyone was healthy in the car, thank God. I mean, 3 of my friends took care of my girlfriend while I was in the hospital in coma. No one told me. Found out from a town shrink 6 months later that, hey, I could name their names now, it's embedded, but PJ, Dave, and Peter slept with her. Hey, we were juniors, she was a freshman, but nobody told me. That's the whole chaotic thing. Nobody told me.
This
And
is
I had to
while you were
find
in the
out-
hospital?
Yeah, well, I was in,
So several of your
I
friends...
just made it such a drama right now.
So
but-
several of your friends slept with your girlfriend
Yeah.
while you were in the hospital recovering from a near-fatal car accident.
Oh, I forgot to mention, I flatlined for 7 seconds on a helicopter ride.
Right.
Sometimes my recall isn't always there.
All right, we want to talk about that, the after effects of this, but
I'm
just
sorry,
wanted to
back
get a
to
sense of, so you don't really remember anything right before this accident?
No.
Okay.
That's the thing I would like to, know, since I didn't find out about that for so long. Did I do something silly?
Yeah.
Did someone do something silly? I have no idea.
Well,
And would
I
like to
actually have
know.
an interesting situation, fortunately not that similar,
Yeah.
but my car was just hit and wrecked while it was parked last week. And I was lucky enough that there was a camera there and I was able to get the footage. So it's interesting to actually be able to see exactly what happened. But yeah, I mean, particularly for you, when you were there and can't remember, I'm sure that would have been helpful. But all right, hold that thought. So we got a sense of your injuries, which were obviously very extensive. All right, so Marty, you put your hand out to brace yourself, and then what's the next thing you remember?
Next thing I remember is slowly coming to consciousness, realizing that I was in the train. I felt blood running down my face, so I grabbed a handkerchief and tried to stanch the bleeding. I was in a lot of pain, and I tried slowly to inch myself up from the floor. The train was off on about a 45-degree angle. So I slowly pushed myself up, and it was not easy. And then I got my balance, and I was balanced between the overhead luggage area and the side of a seat. And then I always had good night vision, and my night vision kicked in. And despite the fact the train was pitch black, there was enough bounce light from the outside.
Well, the train itself was pretty damaged around you, right?
Oh yeah, quite badly damaged. I began to see things and started just getting my bearings.
Now, what sort of injuries did you end up with from this?
The injuries included soft neck damage in my neck area, soft neck and soft muscle damage in my shoulders, contusions all over. I looked like an eggplant. Deep gashes in my forehead, and I was concussed for at least 35 minutes.
So both of you ended up with head injuries. Obviously his
Right.
a little more serious. But all right, now we know that with you, nobody else was seriously hurt. But in your case, people weren't as lucky. What were the injuries from that accident? I know there were a number of people killed.
8 people were killed, 97 people went to the hospital, 2 people were killed in the carriage I was in. A number of people lost limbs, other people were very badly damaged, so relative to them, I was in pretty good shape. That person who had taken the seat, which would have been my seat, in the quiet car, he wound up being paralyzed.
Wow.
And he still only has limited use of his hands and no use of his lower extremities.
So in one sense, it's not like you took a train you wouldn't have normally taken when you could say, if only I had, or was there any moment when you might have not taken that train? I'm just always interested in that kind of thing. So this is just normal routine for you.
It was a normal routine.
But on the other hand, the seat you were in was not.
That's correct. It was a 9:10 train. I could have taken a 6:40 train if I got my act together. I could have taken a 4:20 train. I could have taken the 10:38 train, but I happened to take the 9:10. But my normal seat, my preferred seat, which on the left-hand side of the carriage, was taken by somebody else.
Now, is this somebody you knew, or just?
No, I didn't know, but I came to know him. He's a fellow named Eli Culp. He was a rather celebrated Philadelphia restaurateur, and now he's opened a number of restaurants here in Manhattan. Eli, who was in the seat I was going to sit in, when the train derailed and the carriage started to roll over, one of the large stationary luggage storage areas decoupled, and it fell on him and pinned him down.
Wow. I still remember Curtis Mayfield. If you remember, he was a composer. He was performing in Brooklyn, I think, at Prospect Park, and one of the light towers fell on him, and he ended up paralyzed. Right. So yeah, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing where you're just in the wrong spot.
Right. Other people, so 2 people killed in the carriage, and among the people killed, a number of them were also just ejected from the train through the emergency windows. The emergency windows did not hold, and they were cut to pieces.
Wow.
Fortunately, I sat on the left-hand side of the train, not the right-hand side of the train, and fortunately, I didn't sit next to an emergency window.
So 8 people in total were killed. Did you know these people?
No, I did not.
So none of them, okay.
One of the people who was killed worked for my university, was an administrator at Medgar Evers College in Crown Heights. Never met him, went to a memorial service for him. Most people riding Amtrak that time of night, this particular train originated in Washington. They tended to be professionals, although there were some tourists on the train as well.
All right. Now, would what you guys went through make you any less comfortable? Well, for example, are you less comfortable in a car after that? Did it have any effect on you?
No. I mean, I think I'm maybe too much of a defensive driver. Or, I don't know.
So getting back on the saddle didn't have any effect on you?
No.
Okay.
And
Marty, you still, do you have any hesitancy?
I don't take the train as much. 3 weeks after the accident, I needed to take a train again and decided to take Amtrak. And getting on the train the first time was a little bit of trepidation, but once I sat, I was fine. Now, I do go by the place where the derailment has occurred. I see it regularly. I would prefer not having those memories, but if the option is going some other way, I still take the train.
All right, so that's good that it didn't really seem to affect you guys in that sense. Now, one of the most fascinating things in your case, and I know I'm really interested in hearing about it, is you were in a coma for 3.5 days, you said, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any memory of that?
Not yet. No.
I
say not yet. I don't know, you know.
What's that experience like? You just kind of just woke up?
Well, no, when I came to very slowly. I mean, I can't imagine how much my parents have went through. I mean, my mother's always been by my side. I love you, and she knows it. But just the same, I'd wake up and I remember my mother telling me once, I thought I was Bart Simpson for the whole day, because I'm a Simpson fan. Other days with Law and Order and other things, you know. But, you know, and when my first memory coming out was, you know, I had tubes everywhere, diaper on, you know, cast everywhere, neck thing, and just seeing people. Oh, hi. You know, I was conscious. I knew, as far as my recollection goes with it, coming back to, okay, I knew what was up. My head was on. And, you know, we went to, I was taken to Children's Specialized Hospital instead of Kessler because I was 17, and the physical therapy was more inept for my body. And so I spent about 2.5 months, about a month and a half bedridden, and I was running spring track. And then, you know, the following year, the Star Ledger came to my parents' house and took a picture, marked it the Miracle Man, and put it in the sports section. I think it was October or November of '97. And, you know, I just want to, you know, it blows my mind. I mean, I was in the locker room yesterday at the gym I go to. I thought this guy might have had his kids. I heard these 2 kid voices behind me, and then I was like, that's too animated. Turn around, it's a guy talking to himself, an obvious head injury. You know, I go to, you know, it's just, and I'm just, you know, so thankful. I mean, when I'm walking, I like walking a lot. You know, people want to take a cab or thing this way or that. I'll meet you there in 10 minutes, you know.
So I know you're a very physically active guy, so do you feel you've pretty much fully recovered physically?
Well, I'm used to the pain. You know, I have.
So you in pain consistently?
Well, if I think about it, yeah. You know,
well, I mean, usually you don't have to think about it.
Well, I mean, it's there, yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like a pin or, you know, ice pick in my hips sometimes. You know, my 2 metal plates here, as I showed you the x-rays, it's like, if you imagine, it's like, nowadays they make them, they dissolve into the bone, or, you know, but...
How does that work when you're taking a plane? I know my aunt had a bad car accident, had a lot of metal in her body, but they have your picture?
They x-ray it, and they could see clearly,
right.
You know, and...
has that ever amounted to any extra scrutiny, especially these days?
No. I don't think I've, you know, this is the least it's got me in trouble. But,
so there's worse.
It's also my wrist.
That's another show.
Yeah, that's for the book, you know. No, so what was it? Just the pain sometimes, you know, and I know it's just from life. It's been 20 years. I'm thankful. Young dog, new tricks. You know, I was able to come back. I was in my prime, you know, lifting heavy or, you know, wrestling season and stuff, or, you know. So if any time to happen, young dog, new tricks, you know.
So, Marty, what kind of recovery was involved in your situation?
Let's see, after they cut us out and hauled us out of the carriage, there was a triage station. Triage took us to the hospital, and I was hospitalized for about 5 days. That was just to make sure there were no major injuries, and they were a little concerned that there were some bone chips in one of my lumbar spine areas. It turned out there were, but not from this particular accident. I then was wearing a neck brace for about a month. I was in physical therapy for about 2 months, and now, save for chronic low-level pain, I'm doing okay.
So you recovered well when you were that close to just being in really the wrong place.
Correct. Yeah.
So that guy's paralyzed, you said, who was in that seat. Do you deal with him at all now? Has he recovered at all from that?
He has recovered, although still has very limited use of his extremities, almost none of his lower extremities. He wound up deciding that I had saved his life, which I actually hadn't, but emotionally I probably had. When he came to consciousness, and again the car was black, while it wasn't smoke from a fire, there was smoke and dust still settling in from the crashed windows, and the undercarriage of a train, which has a particularly unpleasant axle grease smell that was permeating the carriage as well. Eli just started crying out, help me, I'm going to die. I have no training in this, but I just immediately kicked into help mode. I reached over, found his hand, and held his hand and said, you're not going to die. We'll be taken care of. I didn't know that, but wanted to be assuring to him. He slowly calmed down, not very much. He asked me my name, I asked him his, and I held his hand until...
Did he ask if you wanted your seat back?
No, he did not. I held his hand until the rescue squad told me I had to come out before he came out. And I didn't want to do it. So I told the rescue squad, I'm staying with Eli. And they said, we have to cut him out, and you have to come out first. Mm-hmm. So I scurried and pushed and made my way out. And then 3 days later, I was in the Hahnemann Hospital in Philadelphia. I received a call in my room from Eli's wife, Marissa, to tell me that Eli was alive, tell me what kind of shape he was in, and then to thank me for what I had done for him. I was really moved, and every time I think about it, I'm still quite moved. 2 months later, I got a chance to see Eli. He was then at the Hospital for Special Surgery here in Manhattan. And I went up to his room. He was there, his mother-in-law was there, his mother was there, his children, his wife. Laid out in a rather complex contraption, all kinds of devices to keep him in traction. I said hello, he said hello, and I broke down. I started crying. I never cry in public. I'm Brooklyn Irish Catholic. There's some things we do in life, other things we don't. Men don't cry. But
Andrew makes other people cry. But.
I'm okay today.
But I was so overwhelmed by the reconnection with Eli. And we talked for a while, and I've kept up with him. And we're not friends. We're bonded in a way that neither of us had been expected to be bonded. And I guess, at least emotionally, I did save his life.
Well, when you live through something like that, it's bound to have an effect on you.
Yeah.
So I know his instance had a lot of press coverage, and we'll get into that. But you said you also ended up being interviewed somewhat. What was the press coverage of what happened with you?
You know what? I don't recall what happened. What's it called? The media at the time or anything. But the next
now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was in the newspaper, big crash, and a wrestling buddy of mine, Jay Chuck, was an EMT, and he said, "Andrew, you look like a rag doll." And I mean, just it's lyrics and songs like "Pain helps me, reminds me I'm alive." Hey, we can all be happy and joyous. I want to be, like the idea of pain-free is another thing, but
were you
being
interviewed
happy.
much?
No.
I thought you mentioned something, no? So nobody came to talk to you?
No, it was the Star Ledger just to the following year.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go.
Mm-hmm. The sports section just put a picture up and pretty much described what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get all dramatized, to open up with. Someone had put that in my head, the idea of not just the physical pain and, like, what was it? Like orthotics, when, I need them. Like I was walking up the hill a couple of months ago, and it was actually colder than it is right now. And, I felt I'm going to have to bust out one of my old canes soon, And not forever, meaning, but seasonally, sometimes, because, I don't know.
Well,
please help me, because I do get tangentile, and it is hot in here.
Well, I know in your case there was a ton of press coverage. Did they interview you?
I was interviewed in my hospital bed twice by the National Transportation Safety Board. And then about a month later, the Philadelphia Inquirer was doing a special feature on Eli. And the Inquirer called me. And I was willing to give an interview, but otherwise I wasn't terribly interested in giving interviews. I got plenty of television coverage, however. By the time that the local networks and CNN arrived on scene, I was being carried out of the carriage by a policeman and a fireman. And then there I was in bloody glory, both first on CNN and then I made all the networks. I didn't know that at the time, but about a week later, I was getting contacted by people saying, "We saw you on TV. Was that you?"
Yeah. Now, I'm interested in what the people in your lives, what their role was like in your recovery. Now, I know you talked about kind of a difficult situation. Obviously, the woman you were dating, was she supportive after you recovered, or?
Yeah, she was there, just no one told me. It went on like nothing had happened.
Oh, so you stayed together.
Yeah.
When did you find this out?
It's a town quack. A town shrink. I'm not looking at you like that, saying guy with the glasses quack. No,
that's okay.
Just trying to mediate, but Christmas tree also. All right. No, we went on like nothing had happened. I didn't know, and no one told me. And then I was talking to a psychiatrist after the head trauma, coma, everything, rehab, learned to walk. I knew how to, but learning to. And he was like, you know what? I'm tired of hearing about your problems with your girlfriend. She slept with da-da, and da-da.
Wait, who told you this?
A town shrink, a town psychiatrist.
A psychiatrist?
He didn't break anonymity, he just gave me the message. And so many people, I guess, in the high school or whoever went there, told him, and he just goes to me, Andrew, all he did was play chess with me. He goes, I'm sick and tired of hearing you complain about your girlfriend. She did what you did, And
was this guy treating you?
Yeah, he was a psychiatrist.
So this was your psychiatrist. I mean,
Yeah.
you can be a psychiatrist and not your psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So this was the guy you were going to, and he just, that seemed kind of a harsh way to express it to a patient, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm tired of you complaining.
I'm exact, it's like, hey, it's there, little branding.
This was then a Marine Corps drill sergeant. This was a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Playing chess.
Wow.
And then I saw
Which
another
form
one.
of tough love therapy was this?
I've always been, I was a cross-country runner, a wrestler, a skateboarder, the rebellious area, and everything. But I didn't click. I didn't want, I didn't feel it. We moved from Brooklyn to Ridgewood when I was a kid, and that's not why. But did change things. I was a different person, parents, everything.
Now, after you found out,
and I love it being raised by New Yorkers, born in Midwood, Brooklyn. But
after you found out what went on with this girl, did you guys stay together? How was that?
I asked her, and she said, I don't remember what I said, but she, And then her and her friends, who I'd introduced to my group of guy friends, they did their thing. They didn't need me anymore. I was 17. I had the car sooner than most people.
So you felt used?
I felt alienated, I guess. I haven't thought about that, but that word just came to mind. Well,
but you just mentioned that you were the guy with the car.
Yeah.
So did you feel like they were using you for your car? Now there's no car?
And there
was no use for you?
Well, a lot of other people did have cars. Don't get me wrong.
They moved on to the next car.
Yeah, whatever. It was not even they didn't need me as a mode of transportation. It was going fun from the summer till October. And then, boom. I wake up slowly and surely and don't know what's going on. The whole thing, it dramatized a little bit. Someone mentioned something, and I would have just started on my injuries, the physical, and do the emotional when we talked to Dr. Drew, But, it was, I lost my thought for a second there.
Does that ever happen as an after effect of what happened with you?
Oh, yeah.
So you do still have moments when things are a little hazy?
Yeah, I think they call it retrograde intrusion even, when you have A, B, and C, and someone flips at CBA, Hey, it's like almost like when you're like something and it gets accelerated. Same character effect, positive or negative, but it gets accelerated by something physical, if not chemical. So it was just, I don't know, it just, from tangents sometimes to train of thought to concentration, and it's with getting to know myself a lot better, having qualified psychiatry and neurology, doing neurofeedback, which is almost like a virtual reality thing. They put these glasses on you, flashing, strobing white lights, little tabs on your ears. They shock like a 9 volt to your tongue. The patches. And
is this done by the CIA? I mean, what's going on? Sounds a little harsh.
No. Just and through all this new, technology and just, it's been 20 years. Mm-hmm. It's almost an elongated adolescence, if you will. I'm in a way, not even spiritual, but 20 years, old in a way. You start over, and not even saying I start over, but flatlining for 7 seconds, that whole spiritual idea, it was in the air when it happened also, Well,
we're going to get to the spiritual.
I'm not going Alibaba on you.
No, I'm just saying. We're going to get to that, but I also want to find out from Marty, what was your support network like?
It was both interesting and unconventional. As I was married at that point, estranged but married. I had been in the Philadelphia marital residence that day. I'd seen the estranged wife. I was able, at the triage station, to ask one of the local folk who came pouring out looking to help to place a phone call for me. And that person called the wife. She did materialize at the hospital a few hours later. Didn't do much to help me. And her main concern was she was leaving for Spain for an academic group tour in 2 days. And was this going to interfere with her schedule?
Well, enough about you.
And for the next day and a half, when she was there for every once in a while, her main questions to the doctors were, will he be well enough that I can travel? So I certainly wasn't going to get much support from her. I'm fortunate enough to have friends and family both in New York and in Philadelphia. And they were terrific. So a sister came down from Plymouth, Mass. A colleague came in from Princeton. A number of friends and cousins came in from the Philadelphia area. They were in to see me all the time. They were there for my discharge. The estranged wife left me $20 and a pair of khakis and my shoes. No credit cards, no medical cards, no nothing. And suggested that perhaps I could take a taxi back from the hospital.
How bad was your relationship before this? Was this just the kind of person this was, or was she very angry at you? Because it's a very unusual way to react.
It certainly was. Clearly, well, again, we had been estranged. We were talking about ultimately getting divorced. Weren't there yet for primarily financial reasons, but clearly this brought a lot of anger out on her part. So one of the first questions people would ask is, where's your wife? And I will say, she's in Spain. And they would look at me and, oh, come on, where is she? I said, she's in Spain. But other people provided the help, so I stayed my first night after the discharge at a friend's house. Then family members came and took me back to my Philadelphia house, an 18th century historic row house with winding stairs. And the decision was made quite quickly that that wasn't going to work. So they bundled me up, drove me up to my New York place, and then people came in and just kept an eye on me for about 2 weeks.
How helpful do you think the role other people played in your recovery was?
Tremendous. For one, it was a support. For two, while I was not as in bad shape as you were, I was in a neck brace. I had to navigate with a walker. Motion was extremely painful because my muscles were really banged up. I've had chronic back problems for decades, and those chronic back problems came back with a vengeance. So I had relied on people, but they were there for me. To even the most simple thing of when you're wearing a neck brace, you have to change the pads every once in a while. And I was unable to change the pads in my neck brace. So I just started talking to people, and I said, sure, I'll come over, wash you up, help you that way. And that certainly sped my recovery.
Now, obviously, this gal wasn't real helpful, but was your family helpful for you?
Oh, beyond belief. I mean, my mother, sister, father, and we had some other family then, but and then my brother-in-law, you know, he was in the picture, and now I have, you know, 7-year-old nieces. That's what keeps me going. I am so blessed to be able to be alive, to share things, to have family. People are like, why don't you move to New York? I'm like, because I'm 35 minutes from New York and 25 minutes from my family, right near, go figure, I'm walking distance from the Hackensack Hospital. I've used it a few times late night too. I just got stitches out a month ago, you know.
Not automobile related, I think.
No,
Okay.
actually, cat food can related.
Have you felt in general you've been a lucky or an unlucky person in your life?
I don't, you know, I'm here for a reason. I'm definitely 35 bones later, metal plates, I have to say, 3 more car wrecks.
3 more?
Oops. But,
Are you driving him home tonight?
yeah,
Okay.
you know, the only, you know, I still get my practice though. Hey,
He's
when,
taking me home. He's going to be conducting the Amtrak.
okay.
But in general,
no.
have you considered yourself? I mean, obviously you've
It's
had a fair
crazy
amount
because it's like I'm here.
incidents.
It's like I got ripped open by a dog. You know, when your lip gets split vertically, it opens horizontally. That was
Oh.
disgusting. That was
So a
after
dog
the
bit
injury.
you in the face.
Yeah, bit in the hand. I mean, you see this one. This was when I was real little. I mean, my mother has seen a lot of my blood because this is when I was in 5th grade. The piece of glass got stuck in my hand. I was filling up a glass at the bathroom sink, and it slipped, and I grabbed it, and had broke my hand. I look at it, I go like that, flip the glass out, squirts blood in my face. You know, in the 5th grade, that was mine. You know, but you know, I've seen enough, you know, of my injuries. It's just like if it happens, I'm like, hey, I should start playing the lotto more. You know, screw the umbrella. I'm just going lotto. You know.
Well, you've been such a lucky guy.
Well, I'm here. Huh? You know, I mean.
Don't buy my lottery tickets.
No, I wouldn't.
You actually have given me a couple of lottery tickets.
Oh,
I actually won once.
Right? Did the Tooth Fairy ever deliver?
Not that I can recall.
Wasn't that the fake
No,
one?
I
you
won a
told
couple
me?
of bucks.
Oh, you got a real one. Okay.
Yeah. No, you gave me a real one.
Oh, okay. I thought it was one of the. Oh, never mind.
Now,
I'll do that next time.
have you considered yourself a lucky guy or an unlucky guy?
I consider myself to be fortunate.
Well, I don't mean just overall set, but just in terms of good luck, bad luck.
Neither. Pretty neutral.
Win a lottery?
Don't
Take
play
it
it.
ever? No, you don't play.
Nope.
So then you are a lucky guy. But do good things, you kind of, sounds like you're kind of in the middle, huh?
Yeah.
All right, neutral. Like Jerry Seinfeld was, he threw away 20 bucks, he'd find 20 bucks. So you kind of break even. Okay, very good.
Same here.
Now, you seem, from what you were saying, like you think you're kind of a spiritual guy. What effect has this had? Because you said you were here for a reason.
Oh, that's the logic.
Has
of
this
it.
accident, I mean, you were fairly young when it happened, but did that change your sense of your view of religion, the world, spirituality, that kind of stuff?
No, you know, Irish Catholic, Midwood, Brooklyn. That's, you know, my father wasn't, you know, religious, and
No, I'm from
but
Midwood.
where?
I'm from Midwood, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, I'm going to be careful when you're driving, though.
Yeah. I still. Hey, my friends
Now you're
let
in
me be
Jersey.
the designated driver in New York. You know, that's fun.
But,
But-
well, seriously, what do you...
No,
does it change
seriously,
your
I
views
always
on
had a
it?
belief. I have a belief in God. You know, I pray and Jesus, Mary, Joseph. I mean, it's the unknown. You know, it's like I wasn't there when everything was written, when a comma's been added and everything. I don't know, but I know it's not just us. The idea. I have such a, you know, and I mean, you know, people always like, "What did you see? Did you see a light?" I'm like, get the hell out of my face! I see this light and it's bugging me. But you know, it's like
There's no light there, by the way, Andrew.
Andy.
Oh,
stop
no.
it.
Not to- Are you seeing lights? Never mind.
No.
Oh.
What's it called? But, you know.
So, Marty, what about you? Have you generally been a spiritual guy, or has it changed at all through this experience?
It's funny, among the things I teach is religion, history of American religion. I'm very interested in religious ideas and religious institutions, but I'm not at all religious, nor am I spiritual. 12 years of Catholic school, somehow it didn't take. However, I felt, because I had the opportunity to help people, I helped Eli, I held the hand of a young lady who was next to me who was freaking out. I called out in the car just to get a head count, so when the rescue squad came, I could tell them the numbers. And while I don't know if that was part of a larger plan, I'd be somewhat skeptic, certainly I felt at that moment that helping other people was the key. And again, that's not spiritual, but that's a broader sense of connection with humankind.
So you feel you've grown from this experience? It sounds like it a little bit there.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
So some good did come of it?
I'll know more this summer when I get my settlement from Amtrak, but certainly that'll be financial. But yeah, certainly did.
Okay.
Because there's the opportunity to mobilize my resources. This sounds, of course, detached. It wasn't at the moment. Wasn't a Boy Scout, had no kind of EMS training, but just immediately clicked into, this is an emergency situation, what can I do to help other people?
Now, did you see any of those examples that we sometimes hear of people doing the wrong thing?
There were people doing that in other carriages, further down the train, the carriages which were not as badly damaged as the front carriages. People were scurrying to get out. They were arguing, fighting. The local television outlets, especially Channel 6, NBC, ABC, made a lot of that, but that wasn't happening in the car I was in.
So in your car, people were kind of, I don't know if I wanted to say heroic, but helping each other.
They were helping each other. People were panicked, and those of us who were not panicking were busy calming them down. But while again, no one said, now it's time to be cooperative, the cooperative side came out in the crisis rather than the conflicting side.
Well, what would you say the worst thing that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the worst thing that ever happened to you, right?
Well, I'd say.
What would you say was the worst thing that had ever happened to you before that?
I can't remember, anything that horrific, because it was not to me. It was
you
the
were
whole,
still
my
pretty young.
family, waking up and not, I had my jaw wired shut because I broke the mandible. So
Well,
I
I
had
mean,
the
that's
food-
from the accident.
I'm just saying
I'm
though.
just wondering what had happened in your life before that where you would have said, this is the worst thing that happened to me before.
I don't know, I guess death of grandparents, things like that, but I don't recall. It was like, I really, my sister, it's funny, my sister says she liked me better after the accident. That says anything?
So maybe you've grown a little too.
But yeah, I mean, the whole...
But I've only known you after the accident. What were you like before, man?
I have no idea. No pictures.
You're
but-
more likable now? Oh, speaking of which, you did have a picture of the accident, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where is it? We were going
Well,
to,
not the accident, but yeah.
well, the aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
Just
I'm
the,
not sure you should.
just told
Yeah.
it. Well,
Wow.
here is what was left of Andrew's car after a tree had its way with it.
Well, no, just a 180 into a tree on the right side of the road. Bump, wet leaves, fish-tailed. And I mean, I read the reports. I don't have any first-hand recall of it.
Right.
As of now. It's just like metal plates. That's just the elbow.
Right. Now, we've obviously got some images that are not so hard to come by of yours. What is it like when you look at that wreckage? I'm sure you've seen the pictures.
I've seen the pictures. There was a final National Transportation Safety Board determination in the summer of this year and a full report. I was invited to Washington to hear the report. I didn't go. But both national television and through the NTSB, I did get a full report range of pictures. I got to see the video clips. I got to see myself bleeding in living color.
And what's that like to look at?
It was strange. For one, I was angry at Amtrak, and I'm still angry. I paid $54 for that ticket, and they haven't refunded it yet.
You're looking to get that $54 back with a couple of zeros,
right,
possibly.
Yep, hopefully. I lost a perfectly good shirt and pair of trousers. But no, it was strange watching myself bleed.
When they mess up my clothes.
Yep. I know. They did it.
Was it a shirt you really liked?
It was a good Brooks Brothers shirt, which I'll
That's
never
a problem.
But,
All right, well,
I was in a onesie. And it wasn't the county issued one. Nah.
Yeah.
But what are we talking about? Dirty clothes?
I don't think so.
I think it was watching yourself or seeing yourself.
Oh.
Because I had the opportunity to see myself on
Yeah.
video.
Well,
And
you
it's,
could.
it's alienating in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, when
Since you really didn't remember what was going on, it must be even weirder for you to look back and here's an image of what's left of the car.
Well, yeah, that and like pictures of my family. I couldn't find them, but my family around my bed, you know, at the hospital, you know, those pictures. Just, you know, it's like, it's wild, 20 years ago. And it's just like, you know.
Did you do anything to commemorate that? Like what did you do on the day 20 years after? That was in this past October, right?
Yeah.
So we're just talking 2 months ago.
Yeah. No, I took my neighbor's car for a ride. So I'm sorry, that little fender thing, Miss Brown, was me. Whoo, we'll be good. Okay.
So you took a car ride 20 years after you almost died in a car accident. All right.
No, plane.
No.
But no, I've had my experiences, then some from cars afterwards. But I like my BBMW, you know, bike, bus, metro, and walking.
Would you say you've become more or less of a risk taker after this? Are you more or less careful?
More cautious, you know. Even for the idea of hopping over a fence, you know, I got to be careful of the way I twist my arm. You know, you know.
But is that for practical reasons, or is that because you're trying to avoid risk?
I think I still have to be much more careful with risk. You know, pause more. You know, not even just physical risk, but just, you know, different things.
Right.
You know, impulse. I'm not saying you know, out of whack with impulse control, but you know, just taking a second longer, a few more breaths. And something that really helps is one neurologist, you had mentioned people like that I have thank-wise. It's one I'm seeing now, Dr. Sanchi. She just mentioned this one thing: take 1 minute, take 6 breaths, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, just for a minute, and it really, you know, helps me, and I help anybody, you know. And just thinking about 1 minute in and out, you know.
Marty, what do you think? Are you more or less of a risk taker? You were obviously a little further along in life than Andrew. He was 17, you're like 19 now, so.
22. That's
Okay.
it.
So last time you lied about your age.
I did.
So what would you say your attitude is about that? Are you more or less inclined to do something? Will you be doing any snowboarding?
Probably not.
Hang gliding?
So
Swimming with the sharks?
I still have mine. K2 52-inch twin tip. If you want it, it starts at 25. 26?
What are you giving?
Okay, sorry.
What are you
Back to
giving
you.
us?
No, I still have my snowboard if anybody wants
okay.
it.
right.
I'm not a winter guy, so.
I doubt I'd be doing any of those kind of things. But while it's a cliche, I have felt and I continue to feel I'm living on borrowed time. So while I don't have a bucket
Are you
list...
living on borrowed time or you're living on house money?
Well, maybe both. Depends what the size of the settlement is. While I don't have a formal bucket list, there are lots of things that I just have done that I elsewise would have put off in terms of travel, in terms of experiences.
Can you think of an example?
Done a lot more travel. And gone to Mexico, and traveled a lot around Europe, seeing things that I thought, well, I might see later in life, but now I realize later in life may not be around. So it is that sense of fragility, that sense of mortality, hasn't made me more of a risk taker per se, but there's certainly more of an urgency.
So you're not doing dangerous things, you're just doing more things.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So
It's like I don't do dangerous things. My driving record actually is clean. And
well, let's talk about what you do. You're an actor. And that's, some people would consider a somewhat risky profession.
oh yeah, well it's not a profession yet, but
Was that
with
something
the
you had thought of
training-
before this?
What?
Before your accident? Is that something you had an interest in already?
I don't know. I mean, when I was in second grade in Brooklyn, I wanted to be a veterinarian. Moved to Jersey, my first friend was a cat, 18 years with me. That's what I wanted to do when I was in second grade. I really don't know. And then until my first biology class at college, 3.5 hours of straight book work, I couldn't do it. And but
So what are you working on now? I know you were in my movie.
oh yeah, as far as my acting and everything, I was in this season premiere of 6 Degrees to Murder, being the estranged boyfriend. And that's what I'm usually cast for.
Estranged boyfriend.
Yeah.
Or estranged.
Both.
Or both.
I'm a
Good.
Gemini. Go figure. No, and then around every corner, Joe Wallace. I had my heroin addict scene with the guy
I saw that.
Yeah.
You made a good junkie.
Yeah, thank you. I try, and I usually get cast for it. So,
Is anything coming up?
Yeah, well, auditions. It's funny, wintertime, it really, hibernate a little bit, but there's still but auditions have started picking up for some, which wasn't like it last year. It was just went a little slow. But, starting to have 2 friends recommending different acting coaches. So I'm going to try different acting coaches and just, better my craft.
Now, sounds like Marty's perspective on life changed. Kind of what came through in what you were saying about living, doing some stuff that you might have put off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like your perspective on life changed after this accident?
I don't know.
Is there anybody I can ask? No, just kidding.
No, I really didn't hear that one.
No, that's okay. So do you feel like you can't really think of anything in that regard that has significantly changed? Now, I know your profession isn't going to change as a result of this. You've been a teacher for how long?
Been a professor for over 25 years. So.
Has this had any effect on it? Do the students know about this? I'm going to assume some.
My PhD students knew. My undergraduates didn't know, since all they knew was class was canceled for the last week, and they were happy about that. My colleagues learned, some immediately, some later. I got a great deal of outpours of sympathy, as one might expect. I kidded a few of my PhD students that they came quite close to needing to find a new advisor, but these things could happen. It didn't happen. No, I can say only other change would be, as I mentioned a moment ago, I'm less work-focused than I had been before. I'm a very hard worker, although one can make an argument professors don't really work for a living. But where
You're saying those 10 hours a week aren't work? Am I exaggerating? Is it like 8 or what?
I'd say thanks for paying your taxes, Andy, so
right.
somebody pays my salary. I still put a lot of time into my work, but I put a lot more time into leisure activity, to friends, to family than before, with the sense that I did not appreciate just how limited one's time might be. And I could have been Eli. I could have been one of the 2 people killed in the carriage. I could have upgraded that evening and taken a business class seat, and we wouldn't be sitting having this conversation now.
No. Now, if you wanted to retire, could you do that now?
I could retire within a few years. I don't want to retire.
I'm just wondering what effect this, is that the kind of thing you would be more or less inclined or the same as a result of this?
Oh, probably less. One of the benefits of being in the professoriate is you get to gray gracefully. There's no impetus for me to retire, and I could not go out for physical reasons. No, and I really wouldn't even consider that.
Okay. Now, we're wrapping it up. I wanted to give you a chance to give your contact info, assuming you want people to get a hold of you.
Okay.
Assuming after this interview they'll want to get a hold of you.
Oh, there's a lot more to learn with, from the trauma.
You mentioned a book.
that.
You're actually thinking of doing that?
Yeah, a lot of from family members and friends, they said you really should. That was just
If anybody wants to write Andrew's story, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, my contact info is Andrew J Rodney at gmail.com.
Are you looking for people to get a hold of you, or are you very ticklish?
If anyone would like to get hold of me to talk about this or anything else, that's fine. Probably the easiest way to reach me is Gmail. It's mjbnyc, the number 1, at gmail.com.
AndyFTroy at AOL.com if you want to get in touch with me. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. But for now, we are gone.